to disrespect RAILA and discredit his entire life's work. And since they wanted to trend, in this video, we will help them trend. And so with no further ado, let's get after it. Number one, here's what Godha Wamgode had to say.
Okay guys, welcome to Life Saga TV. Life Saga TV actually presents you some information that may be out of doubt or out of reality, or actually others to correct the current matters that are happening. And today is a holiday that we got out of the fallen hero of the country, Raila Odinga. Of course, even if at the end of the day, people feel like he didn't do much. Personally, I feel like all his life, he lived 8 years. And most of his time, save maybe for one moment or two, because we are never perfect in this world. He may be messed once or twice, or maybe even if you say 5 times, but 95% of his life, he committed to real work and he did it. Sometimes people could critique him to push him, but as I have heard the tributes, I actually have a very different perspective, and all I'm doing is actually to pack my mind and my body with all these lessons so that I become able to actually stand out in my life also in a different way. And of course, as everybody knows, it's so hard to have another Raila in this country. Very hard. Because current times we have people who are ready to sell themselves out as just in order to get what they want. If people know that tomorrow they'll be given position, they'll easily give in. We look at Morara, for example, Morara Kebaso, Makore, all they have done, they stood out, and we saw that they are really coming to represent maybe or present efforts that we are fighting for in this nation. But they reached a time and turned corners, and they began to say, no one sent me, you are not supporting me, so I'm not going for it, you are abusing me. Raila did not have any moment to actually blame anyone for whatever reason. All he did was to go ahead and fight head-on collision with those whom he thought he should fight, whether he was alone or with somebody. And we've heard these tributes from the daughter, Winnie. We've also heard from the wife. We've heard from Uhuru Kenyatta. We've heard from RUTO. How I wish I would also have heard from Gachagua and Kalonzo Musyoka, but unfortunately they were not given chance to. So welcome to Life Saga TV. Let's go through this moment. I've done an analysis on my other channel, but the perspective there was very different from what I'm doing here. So welcome, and I'll be going through the tributes that were passed during funeral. And now that I understand each of them, I'll not be actually letting them be presented fully. I'll be talking about what somebody said, then I present bits by bits of what they said. So welcome here. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel, because I'm really battling through this channel to make sure that I'll use it as a platform to enlighten, educate, and do much. And of course today, I also plan to discuss the bills which were passed to law by RUTO just when the hero Raila Odinga had passed on. And before we do it, there are some ungrateful young people, the Gen Zs, who have come out to actually discredit what Raila Odinga has done for the country and regret to ever stand with him. I'm like, in African culture, we don't come out to blame somebody during death, unless otherwise. This one, I'm just getting it right here. And maybe they wanted to trend, and of course, as if people want to trend, you help them do so. So let's get to see one by one what they were saying. Of course, here is one.
Here's what Godha Wamgode had to say.
Okay, so Godha Wamgode goes on. I don't know what you think about what he said, but I believe it's all ungrateful to say this.
Babangu alikufa 2016 na nikamwona akaenda. Huyu amekufa ni babangu kwani? Is he my father? Huyu ni Raila Odinga. Na akikufa na mourn nini? Why am I mourning? Ingekuwa ni Raila amekufa sasa ningekuwa na mourn, hata ningekuwa na
Godha Wamgode says he's not mourning because his father died. I'm like, do we only mourn our parents? And look at how he has widely opened his eyes and he's speaking. Possibly he wanted to trend. I don't know. I don't just understand. 1348C1, welcome, welcome. Big up to you. I don't know whether you have same feelings as Goda Wamgoda or you have different views. Anyway, let's get to the second person who also did speak. All right?
Wa, hata kama ni kuonyesha loyalty kwa Rigiji, you can do it without pissing on Agwambo. So shameful. Number 2, this gentleman claims that he has nothing, absolutely nothing to mourn about Raila. Just check out this tape.
Okay. We check on Denzel Omondi Albert Ojwang. Who is this? Oh, no. Oh, so the guy is actually using the name of Denzel Omondi Albert to actually say that he cannot mourn or he has nothing to mourn about Raila Odinga. Let's listen to what he said, and I hope he's not abusive as the previous one.
Hapo kwa kumon Raila, mimi nitoeni. Nah, me, I will not mourn Raila. I will not. First, you do not join hands with the person who has been killing young men, and it is because they just took over from where you left. They believed in you. They thought you are doing something right for this country. And they told you, you know what, let us now do this. Let us take it to the next level. And then after they are killed, you join. I have nothing to mourn about. Where you're supposed to rest. Hata kama ni kwa Kayava, apumzike pema peponi, asipumzike, apumzike kwa siafu, I don't care. He can just die. That's all. Die. I have nothing to mourn about Raila. Nothing. Wake Up is the AI-powered work platform that unifies your entire team and all your tools together in one place.
Ibu, that is the whole point of the story. Anyway, moving along, here's another ungrateful Gen Z.
Kuna watu wanafia monga ati kwamba now that Raila is gone, we are doomed. Ruto atakuwa dictatorial. Nobody is around that is capable of putting this guy in check. And honestly, this kind of whining sounds hypocritical to me. What has Raila been doing for this country over the last 2 years? Alikuwa amenyamaza during Gen Z protests. Alikuwa amenyamaza during abductions and tortures and killings. Amekuwa amenyamaza during protests this year. Amenyamaza hadi venye Albert Ojwang, his skin, rather from a tribal perspective, his skin is fellow Luo. Amekuwa amenyamaza. Mnasema kuna bills Ruto amepass, lakini you are not being honest, mko hypocritical. Hizo bills zimeenda through stages. Hiyo kwa sent, that was the last stage. So obviously, isn't it bills zimekuwa zikidebatiwa for the last year, the last 6 months, or even the last 3 months. Seriously, Raila amekuwa around. So
All right, guys. I've never seen a situation whereby during death people talk ill about anybody. But I can see that there are youth who possibly want to trend or maybe want to appear different. I don't know. But they actually had to come out and say this of Raila. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they were justified to actually come out and say what they said here? Because they are saying it's hypocritical to mourn him and that he has not done much. And I'm like, if I did good things all along in my life, and maybe in the last 2 years I was unable, because again, maybe I did not gain, I did not have that support. And maybe even the choice of broad-based was intentional with a purpose. So does that mean then you trash everything he did? I don't think that is right in my perspective. Because, for example, if my parents have taken care of me 15 years and maybe the last 2 years they were unable, would I trash the 15 years they have taken care of me and say it is nothing? I don't think so. Zahra E7U2N says, unshaved the keys and other hand. Oh, what do you mean? I don't understand. Zahra, you can clarify that. Anyway, For the 8 years, actually, when you look at the most of the legacies that have been passed, I think there is something here to learn from. Because if we trash like that, then we will not see anything to talk about. But one thing I want to assure you, all along when we were living and listening to Raila Odinga, there are some things we learned from him. And the way he was quite happy, excited, you wouldn't actually believe that he was actually ailing from serious situations. And maybe if we have to go back and check on one video of what one nurse was sharing, is it a nurse or a doctor from India? You will actually realize this man was sick, but he was walking and serving, you know. Let's just check here. Let's skip this. You actually realize that the man was ailing but was sacrificing his moments, something that most people wouldn't have done. But let's just look at this and listen carefully to understand the conditions that were surrounding him. Of course, the doctor has mentioned about 5 different conditions. And most of us, even when we ail from one condition, we are there loudly crying and wailing. So what about this man, 8 years old, and he was ailing from all those conditions, and he was able to actually go through those moments. We've even seen him, people saying he's crying, his eyes are crying, and all theories surrounding that. Anyway, let's just listen to the doctor here before we proceed.
We only do verified information and confirmed facts. Listen to this doctor before we continue.
Mr. Raila Amlo, 80 years old, former Kenyan Prime Minister, was brought to our emergency medicine today morning at 8:20 a.m. with a history of sudden collapse during his morning walk at Sritariyam Ayurvedic Hospital close to our place.
It will be too dark.
Then itself, they had started CPR, that is cardiorespiratory resuscitation, and he was brought with a CPR, active CPR. His doctor and security were with him, and we continued CPR and did emergency intubation, that is putting a tube in the respiratory system, trachea, and continued CPR along with other resuscitative measures. Initially, there was no pulse or BP recordable, even palpation-wise. So after doing intubation with continued CPR, we shifted the patient to our ICU with all the staff and the facilities. In ICU, after some time, we could get some rhythm. On the monitor, it showed ST elevation in the ECG leads, in the anterior leads, plus we could see regional wall motion abnormalities, that is reduced movement of one artery territory, that is LAD territory. There was hypokinesia. This means there is less movement in that
George
area.
Kariuki,
So
1306 high.
Stabilizing him with some IV fluid and all, we just gave him an injection, that is injection reticulates, for dissolving the clot if it is there in the coronary arteries. And we could see him with a significant edema of the right lower limb, right leg. When whatever information we got from the doctor was he was a diabetic, hypertensive, chronic kidney disease patient. He had right lower limb DVT, for which he was put on IVC filter. And recently he had a thin subdural hematoma. Last Saturday when it was done, that was almost very thin. And the neurosurgeon was the doctor who was with us in the ICU and who followed the patient from, accompanied the patient from Sritariyam. So after discussing with him, we went ahead with the thrombolysis with the injection reticulates. Even we continued CPR, that is from 8 o'clock in Sritariyam. We continued CPR in spite of our very sincere, very continued CPR and other measures, we couldn't make him survive.
All right. So of course that is one of the proven evidence about surrounding his death. Of course, so many people are giving a lot of theories, and I feel like this was very important information to actually approve or rather disapprove. All right, so I felt that this was very important information, best that on Life Saga TV we focus on giving rightful and proven information. And you remember that this doctor was actually participative even on the day of demise. So that is why I had to bring her on board and actually let her give that information. So away from that, currently or today, there were a lot of tributes which were being shared. And out of that, I believe there's a lot of things that we could learn from it. One of it being what one was actually how the bishop actually preached during this sermon, and he kind of enlightened individuals on the sense of being transparent, great leaders, focused on truthfulness, and the fact that sometimes even politicians shouldn't go to churches and actually announce what they have given, because even if they do that, it really shows negative about them, because when you give to the church, the Bible says what you give to the left, the right hand should not know. Most of our politicians go to churches and they want to announce what they did. So this bishop came up to preach a lot of things against looting, against publicity of what is contributed, against the aspect of bribing the voters, and the fact of actually being focused on justice. Let's hear some of the part of the sermon. I'll not be playing the entire video because I've already done it elsewhere. I don't want it to create repetitive information. Thank you.
We are all asking, as we celebrate the life of Baba, is how do we apply the power to proclaim that God has given us for the good of the nation, for the good of all of us, for the good of humanity. But with money and woe unto those who drive big vehicles, they are in trouble. Whenever you are seen, you are only seen in terms of money. What can you be able to give? Baba Raila Amolo Odinga never used the power of it as a convincing tool to others, but he used the power of persuasion. He used the power of persuasion. He used the power of the word. We as preachers, sometimes we are also tempted to fall into temptation of compromising the message that the Lord has given us, that God has called all of us only to proclaim his will. And once we proclaim that, we remain stronger than ever before. To live in a united nation of our republic. That was the wisdom that God had given him. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Let's see ourselves as Kenya first, not from the point of view of our tribes, of our classes, of regions, where we come from. I had breakfast with Baba. We were with Mama Ida, and we talked about things touching on the church. And one thing I say, I saw a man who was ready to meet God anytime. I saw in him a man who had made peace with God in everything that he said and everything that he did. I saw in him a man who was ready to walk the journey with the Lord at whatever level. A humble servant that many people never listen to. A man who believed in God that many people did not know. I tell you, as his bishop, he is a person that we have lost. He is a person who was at the heart of our diocese. Some people think that for you to be a good churchman, people must see how you give. Sometimes you give by the right hand, the left hand may not have to know what you have given. A person who knew how to work have deserved this other than the Right Honorable RAILA Monodini. Is anyone here at whatever level, be you a governor, be you an MCA, be you whoever it is who has looted this country, you know you stand a chance of being correct.
So actually, when you listen to the bishop actually talking here, he brought out some elements that people never knew about Raila Odinga. Of course, people used to call him Muganga, Mzee wa Vitendawili, Mchawi, and all those kind of words. But when you look at the church, sometimes when we do what we do in church, even when I'm at work, I don't like actually telling people how much I do in church, because that is a different social cadre. I don't have to prove to fellow workers that I'm really churchly or I'm really ready to do charity or whatever. Because at work, it's about work. It's not about charity. It's not about church. But when I go out there and I'm serving the church, it's a different place. In a political front, it's a different field. When you go to the social field, it's a different field. Just like you cannot be a pastor, okay, praying in your house is okay and what have you, but can you really practice what you do before the altar in your house? Very impossible. All right. So let's check on much more. Of course, during this funeral, we heard from different people. One other person that we heard from was Oginga Oburu, brother to Raila Odinga, and all he had to share is what Raila Odinga did as a young person. This reminded me of what Miguna once said. Miguna came up with a theory that Raila Odinga never went to school. He was just somebody who fought around in school and ran away to somewhere, and he never went to school. But now Oburu came out to clear airs and indicated that Raila Odinga was such an intelligent person in school, and he was also competent in many other fronts, save from jumping. And of course, when you look at his posture, even currently, just before passing on, you wouldn't say he would jump the highest. So let's listen to the brother here before we get to other individuals.
He was my advisor, and he was my confidant, and he was everything, including business partnership. We grew up together more or less as twins, because the difference between me and my brother is only 1 year and 2 months. And unfortunately, my brother passed on my birthday, which is 15th October 1943. When we were growing together with my brother, we were in Bondo in Sakwa, though we were born in Maseno. But during that time, we were only 3 boys. And our mother was a disciplinarian more than our father. But my brother Raila knew how to cook. Our father's mother told us that you, my boys, you are also my girls. And one day he was late in school, and when the teacher asked him what he was doing, he said he was still listening to the radio. He wanted to hear news. And he was only at standard 3, standard 4. Rather, the later Gola, because he was more brave in confronting anybody who attacked us. Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you the story of Raila the whole day, but that is not my intention today. My intention is to tell you that even though my brother was almost the same age as me, but younger than me, I can tell you that I respected him as my leader in the political arena. My wives,
Adolfo
I
Shonta.
have 2 of them.
Adolfo
If I
Shonta,
don't
hi.
introduce them to you, they might feel jealous and refuse to give me food. Yes,
Oburu says he had to introduce the daughter. The daughter so that they don't refuse to give him food. Anyway, let's proceed and share the tributes from others. And we have learning lessons from this, all right? We have learning lessons from this. Yeah. So, of course, Uhuru Kenyatta also, on the other hand, talked in this funeral. And he actually gave a tribute to prove that regardless of the differences, you know, when we watch the news and we see clashes between these people, we think it's life and death. But just listen to what Uhuru Kenyatta said here. I'll be skipping through, but Uhuru Kenyatta actually came out to prove that Raila Odinga was a person who could sacrifice for justice. He was brave. He was also ready to compromise. He was forgiving. He had ideas or ideologies, and he was a working person for the nation. So let's listen to the horse's mouth, then we'll be analyzing it as well.
Mama Rachel RUTO, Agwambo, Jacob, Tinga. Lakini kama Wakenya kutoka kona zote tulimjua na tukamheshimu kama baba. Yaoneshwa na marafiki tofauti tofauti ambao ukienda kumtembelea kwake nyumbani ulikuwa unawakuta kiongozi ambaye historia ya demokrasia katika taifa letu la Kenya
alijua vizuri,
haiwezi iandikwe bila jina la Raila Amolo Odinga kuwa nambari 1. Wanatekeleza shida za wananchi kule chini, haiwezi iandikwe bila jina ya Raila Amolo Odinga. Wenzangu, nawaambia hivi, tunawakumbuka wakina mzee Jomo Kenyatta na Jaramogi Odinga kwa kutetea uhuru wa nchi yetu. Haki kwa sisi ambao tumebaki na wale ambao hawajazaliwa. Hivyo ndivyo ndugu yetu angependa kuona, na hiyo ndio njia ya kuona legacy yake kama kiongozi wa taifa letu.
Nikupa mabaadaye.
Wenzetu sio siku ya mambo mingi. Kirianga wakiketi wanaongeanga mambo gani? Mimi kwa nasema unajua wanaongea siasa.
Nini nilitaka ona Chandarua tunaendea sai. Na hiyo nilitaka aende na miti ya nini kutoka shule. Anachukua tu ila anaweza.
Iko kama ngapi?
Iko nyingi, so ni yeye achukue ila ataweza. Nilikuwa nimemwambia lakini
kama sisi basi wanatuangalia tu na mambo hii yetu ya upuzi hapo, wanatuchekelea. Anasema lakini unajua I'm very keen kujua. Sasa ndugu yangu,
akifika hapo uliza tu.
Sasa tayari najua mnajiongeleshana huko.
Umeenda na mfuko kile sawa ukasema.
Na sio ati niko na haraka ya kuja kuwafikia, lakini
niko nimeenda na hii. Lakini
bado tunataka tutulie kidogo, Mwenyezi Mungu atusaidie. Lakini najua wakati wetu ukifika utakuwa hapo kutuambia kutembea hizo mabarabara za huko
kidogo sana.
Kwa hivyo yangu, ndugu yangu,
sitabeba kidogo sana.
Ni kuombee kwa Mwenyezi Mungu akurehemu, akulaze na amani na wenzako
kama ni tano.
Ukijua ya kwamba twakumbuka wewe
ama kumi.
Na yale ambao umebakisha
kama ni machungwa, mashimo yake ni kubwa.
Na familia yako sasa imekuwa yetu. Na tutaendelea kuwalinda na kuwachunga na kusimama pamoja nao kwa wakati wote.
All right, so that is a tribute from Griffin Mabula Didas Charles Obondo. Welcome. Hello to you. Thank you so much for your wishes, and I really appreciate. Actually, today is a morning day, so I've decided to dedicate my channels to the life of Raila Odinga, because apart from Sunday, we will not have another moment to mourn Raila Odinga. So that is why I was surprised that there are some youth, the Gen Zs, who are coming up to give their own theories and disregard all that Raila Odinga has done. When someone falls, you recall the best moments, because any other thing away from that does not really stand out. So, of course, Kindiki spoke, and while speaking, he mentions the names of the opposition. He did not call upon some of them to speak, and I didn't understand. This was one of the sagas of the government. Why did they decide not to allow maybe Mother Karua or even Kalonzo Musyoka to speak? I didn't see any problem in that, because being someone whom they stood with together for a long time, I didn't see a problem with them allowing him to speak and actually recollect what he has done. And I think when we mourn like this, we have to learn a lot from the people who have fallen. So anyway, let's check on what President Ruto had to say. And I think from what I heard, President Ruto actually also appreciated Raila as a person who focused on justice, democracy, and also while rivaling, he focused on reconciliation and forgiveness, something that stood with him all along. And that is why maybe possibly some people will actually blame him, but I don't think he deserves our blame. We don't have to blame him, because if there is anyone who suffered for Kenya, it's Raila Odinga. Even more than these young people who are actually claiming to really have done much. We've not seen it yet. So let's look at this part of Ruto and see what he's sharing. But as I've told you in summary, that is what he had to say. All right?
Baba, the man in whose honor we gather here today belongs to that rare, irreplaceable breed of human beings. My dear brother Raila Odinga, as we bid you farewell, we do so with the deepest gratitude as a nation and as a people. We grieve your loss. We celebrate your 80 years of presence. In your inexpressible grief, but we also share in your pride for your husband, your father. We gather here today not just to mourn the passing on of Baba, but celebrate his purpose, his vision, and his ideals. History. I have come a very long way with Baba. When I stood by him with the other Pentagon members at a defining moment in his and our nation's history, I neither knew that one day we would find ourselves on opposite sides, nor could I have imagined that years later he would stand by me, this time to steady the nation and to help anchor my leadership, culminating in the birth of the broad-based government. To you, Baba, I owe you, and I am truly and eternally grateful that our paths crossed and that we shared this journey together. We have been both collaborators and competitors, friends and rivals.
David Lumbasi, welcome.
To rise above self, he always did unreservedly. Whenever Kenya needed reason, he became the voice of reason courageously. And whenever the country needed a hand of reconciliation, he offered it without hesitation. Perhaps one of the greatest lessons he taught us was this: in the noble task of statecraft and nation building, there is room for all of us, competitors and collaborators.
Enoch Kirui, welcome. David Lumbasi, welcome. Griffin, thank you so much.
He endured years of imprisonment, exile, and political struggle for not the privilege of power, but for the principle of service. He bore the scars of his struggles with dignity and calm poise, and turned pain and suffering into purpose. Jacom was also at home in the humblest of homes.
Aaron Son now, welcome, welcome.
And boys, not in Kingstown, but here in Nairobi, in Kisumu, in Mandera, in Vihiga, in Mombasa, in Kakamega, in Wajir, and in every village and valley across our land. Baba has finished his race. He has kept the faith. He has served his people.
Amemaliza mwendo ameumaliza, vita amevipambana, sasa ametuachia sisi. All right, so when you listen at Ruto, this is unexpected. You wouldn't expect such a speech of Ruto during any other moment to him. How I wish such things would be offered when you are alive. Raila Odinga would be so excited and happy to have heard this when he was living. And I think I'm learning that people should actually appreciate us when we are living also. Because I think Raila Odinga really struggled a lot to an extent that he almost cried. We actually saw him crying and breaking down. Just as the daughter Winnie has shared, he felt like he has done so much, but he is not actually getting that which he is longing for. Although he has had to actually make us achieve some of the things he fought for. So anyway, let's listen to the wife, Ida. Ida also came up with a lot of lessons I learned from as a woman. One thing, Ida shared to us that the naming of their children with Raila Odinga was not selfish. Can you imagine a man who accepts that you name a child, you combine names of your mother and the wife's mother, then you give the child? She also shared us the fact that Raila Odinga was a fighter and had an art of forgiving, but he was strict. At the same time, he had the love for his family and he dedicated a lot of time to politics, but he did a lot for his family. So let's just check on Ida, because she also shared the importance of family and how a family can actually be brought up. Currently, we have a lot of sagas, families which are breaking in 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. But I learned something from Ida during her tribute. Let's just listen to this.
The visiting president, past and present, for those who don't know me, I've got a very long name. They call me Canon Dr. Ida Betty Odinga EST. Now gotten the name of Peace Ambassador. And for that reason, even if I say something else, I'd like to say something about peace. One thing that I know that RAILA stood for, and he keeps on repeating, is that we need peace in our nation, we need peace in our homes. And peace will not survive in a situation, in a chaotic situation. For that reason, I appeal, today I appeal, let us mourn RAILA in peace. We got married in 1973. For that reason, I've lived with this man for 52 years. Many of the people that I see or who are in this stadium, Odhiambo Odinga. When Fidel was born, the name of my mother, and Mary is the name of his mother. Last, there was a big gap, and I'll explain to you. Nelson Mandela had come out of prison. It was 20, but then I said, if it's a boy, we'll name him Wilson Mandela. But if it's a girl, will be Winnie Mandela. And therefore, Winnie Mandela arrived. And that's the fourth child. A child, anything that you want. But I'll appeal to those who are still having babies. Give your child a meaningful name. Because you name them people you never saw, you never heard of, simply because it saw the name written somewhere. There's nothing wrong with giving our children the names of the people who in our lives we think are the heroes. But as we continue living together, we've learned how to cope because we all have weaknesses and strengths. We learned to talk straight to one another. We learned to speak the truth, and we learned to forgive and move on. Now that forgiving spirit was not only in the home, but it's something
John Jenga. Welcome, Aaron San W. And please, I remind you also to subscribe to the channel. Kindly subscribe to the channel and help us to grow.
Paramount. So please don't carry grudges from one generation to another and from one group to another. We are all Kenyans. We are all Kenyans. We are sisters and brothers. We must learn. We must learn.
Okay, so Aida, of course, had an emphasis on the art of forgiveness in her speech. And we have to also check on Winnie's speech because it was very relevant. But before that, we have to check on RAILA Jr. RAILA Jr. gave a speech. And of course, the speech was meant to appreciate the father for having made him who he is. Okay?
I am very alive to the fact that my brother Fidel is gone. I remain the gentleman of the family. Dad, I want you to assure you that I will take care of our family, Mom, Rosie, Winnie, and your larger political family too. Erokamano. The refrain is Asante Baba. Nikinoa Flairis Munasema. Thank you for giving me your name and for never heaping the weight of it on me. Asante Baba. Thank you for the beautiful childhood that through the challenging times.
Thank you very much.
Asante Baba. Thank you for believing in me, encouraging me to speak up and to try new things, for always hearing me out. Thank you for standing by me even when I fell short or outright failed, and for always showing me grace.
Yes.
Thank you for your wisdom, your guidance, and your unwavering love, not just for me, but our entire family. Mama, Fidel, Rosie, Winnie, Yvonne, Lion Amolo Odinga, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Thank you for grounding me in ways more of our people and encouraging me to be a man. I will deeply miss our family moments, our laughter, our conversation. I will miss watching Arsenali with you. I miss mix Arsenali.
All right, so of course, when you look at that tribute, it means that Raila did his part as a parent, and of course, there is much we are learning from him. Let's also look at what Winnie said, because Winnie actually was trying to actually clear the airs around the saga of when exactly did the father die. The social media has had very different information, some saying that he died 1 week ago, some saying that he did die some days before that. Maverick came up to say he died a day earlier. So let's just check on what Winnie tells us here and see what we can gather. Because Winnie was actually in Mumbai, unlike us. So we should actually base on what she's saying, possibly. I don't see the reason why they would have
I've been
been.
the luckiest girl in the world because you are my dad. Only 3 other human beings were as lucky as me. Fidel, Rosie, and Junior. Dad, you are light, steady, unyielding, and deeply human. To the world, you are known by many names. When you were growing up, they used to call you Aluo. And then when you started work, they started calling you Jaramogi's son.
Sasa gunia ama
And at some point, they started to call you
nani
Tinga.
angalia?
Wakati na yake kidogo.
Pata gunia.
At another point,
Iko kwa
they
hiyo gunia
started to
ingine
call you
ndani.
Agwambo. Briefly there, they called you Nyundo. They called you Jacom. They called you Baba Fidel. But in the end, they called you Baba.
Okay. Second. Then.
To me, you were simply Dad. A man whose presence froze rooms around the world. Our home was the Vitendawili testing ground, filled with trivia, quizzes that challenged the 4 of us, in a good way sometimes. When I learned that you willed to be buried in 72 hours, I laughed. Food, even when the path is lonely. The true leadership is service and not power. Millions of you are in despair, true and humorous. He loves storytelling, music. I think you know the favorite song. Down the bay, the mountain top. Fidel's son, I, Junior's son, Lion, Sanai, and Jaramogi. Every day, he was waking up and walking. And every day, he would do 1 round. But he did not die like people have been saying on social media. Every day, he was waking up and walking. And every day, he would do 1 round. The next day, he pushed 2 rounds. That morning, he pushed to 5 rounds. He died strong, but with dignity and with pride. And you must be proud of that. You all must also walk with your heads held high and walk strong and proud. The biggest part of me died on the 15th of October 2025. But the spirit of the lion goes on forever. Fellow mourners, I was with him in India when he took his last breath. He died in my arms. But he did not die like people have been saying on social media.
All right.
Every day he was waking up and walking. And every day he would
So of
do
course,
1 round.
the narrative that Winnie gave here was actually very relevant, because a lot of people are asking, when did Raila die? Some creating a narrative of a week earlier that the country just kept about it, just the same way it happened in Tanzania when the president died. I don't know. But I choose to believe what the daughter said, because why would she lie? Anyhow, away from this, I want us to delve into something else. But before that, there is somebody else we have not listened to, and that is Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo Musyoka actually came up to complain about their treatment as the opposition in this funeral room to speak, and he wonders why. I don't understand though. So let's listen to this.
Over to you, Lennox.
I think I showed everything I was doing in the UK, and I'm happy I was able to catch up with the state funeral. And I can tell you that I've lost a real brother, a man I have known so deeply. He shared such great pain of stolen elections and all of that. And in fact, when I came in, I looked at Weta and I told Weta, do you remember where we went to this park in South Africa? Immediately after the results were announced in 2013 and affirmed by the Supreme Court, we were so down, and not just us, because we are down for the sake of our people. So our brother has taken a final bow, but the struggle continues. This struggle continues. I'm so
Elizabeth Muli, hi, welcome. Please subscribe to the channel. Keep subscribing, guys.
Mutu apitenda Winnie. Although his daughter Winnie twisted it nicely. He said there's that, an enigma. Nobody called him Amchawi, because the bishop, his own bishop, spoke so well about who Raila was in the church, within the Anglican church. So we will continue this struggle. It's unfortunate, because it's a state funeral. They should actually have recognized the official opposition to say something. That's what Raila Odinga would have wanted to do. But you can see even the way Kindiki announced the name, that some of us around there with his usual small voice, nobody could hear. All right? But it's okay. It's okay. We must give Raila the most dignified, as Uhuru Kenyatta himself said, right? Go to get and to make sure this is a safe nation. The human rights of every Kenyan, the right not to sleep hungry, not to go without medicine, not to get your things stolen. You remember I had to stand when the bishop talked about looting. I don't know whether the camera saw that. I really stood because that bishop spoke what is in the minds of Kenyan people. You can see the mood. Kenyan have lost it.
So, of course, Kalonzo Musyoka was speaking something here that was relevant. If the government believes in unity and it believes in the aspect of fighting the spirit that Raila Odinga left, and the fact that actually there is need for looking beyond individuals, then I don't know why they skipped on the official opposition. I would even have expected Gachagua to speak here. Why not? Okay, why not? Yeah, so of course the narrative of Raila Odinga dying a week earlier doesn't actually add up for me. And the aspect that even at one point Kalonzo Musyoka asked about a flag that was being hoisted half, I don't know. Because when I listened to David Wafula analyzing this, he was trying to say that if you look at the body, for those who went to view, they are saying that it doesn't look like a fresh body. But he is also saying that given the mood at Kasarani yesterday, and also looking at the traveling from India to Kenya and different weather conditions, also the fact that he is old, you may not actually add 1 plus 1 to just quickly get 2. You might sometimes even find yourself getting 11. So it has been an emotional day, of course, a very emotional day. But let's listen to Rosemary. After listening to Rosemary, we can get to some 1 or 2 points, then end this. Because Rosemary is the only one we had not listened to, even in my previous analysis of different times.
There's a speech they said I should speak because it talks on their behalf as well. I can't read it very well. I'm sorry, the mic is blocking it for me, but I'll just speak off the cuff. We've known Georgie for several years, and who've spoken before us. You can see
what is this?
the political wing, his personal family. But over here, I've also
what is coming out? Rosemary Odinga's speech. This one is coming out as a very different thing. This is not what I urged for. So let's not mix things here. Yeah, it's coming up as a very different thing. But anyway, I just believe that we've really covered what we had to cover for this analysis. But I want to talk about the laws that William Ruto actually had to pass recently. Maybe just make a clarification on each one of them. So maybe about these laws, I'll also be trying to interpret. So give me some few minutes. So the first law that has actually been amended is the National Land Commission Bill 2023. How are the key changes in the amendment? So the law has amended restoration of the mandate of the National Land Commission to review historical grants and dispositions of public land, okay? The allocation, transfers of public land for property, or even those predating August 27, 2010. Something that authority has lapsed under the prior law. So it has introduced the safeguarding and time limits so that they review on limited 5-year process of commencement to amendment. It has also extended or clarified on the period within which historical land injustice claims may continue to be admitted or processed. Okay, you people understand that land issues are very basic in this nation. So the intention or the goal of this law is to open the path to redress historical land injustices. I think you saw one about the cousin, the cadet, the captain, the cousin to Uhuru Kenyatta. So this law is actually trying to give a time barred under the old regime, you know. We had the time barred aspect, okay? So the NLC could no longer act on land matters that had expired, but now this one is resurrecting in a manner that they can handle historical injustices on land. I think this one is a good aspect, right? And it strengthens accountability in land administration by giving the NLC power to scrutinize past land deals. It is also safeguarding or limiting 5-year logbook window to intended with an intention to prevent indefinite reopening of all land deals and create legal certainty. However, what are the risks of this law? or concerns or criticisms. So critics worry that the window is too short. The 5-year duration may cause gross irregularities in land allocation, so that victims may not be able to pursue claims if they are beyond 5 years. Again, another risk is that there is possible tension. Restoring NLC power is good, but subjecting it to restrictive time frame may limit effectiveness in what they intend to do. The other risk of this law is that the balance between redressing and legal certainty is delicate, and if too many old deals are reopened, for example on land, that could cause a lot of instability. But if it is too narrow, many injustices will become unaddressed. The second law that the president signed recently is Land Amendment Bill 2024. I want you to understand what this law is about, okay? Now, when you look at this law, it refers to Amendment of Land Act, land-related laws in media, which are sometimes called Land Bill, okay? So what are the key changes that we expect in relation to this law? The first one is that there is a requirement for registration of public land. The land registrar must publish a notice in the Kenyan Gazette with particulars of registration before finalizing anything to do with the public land. The amendment also looks forward to strengthen oversight and prevent fraudulent allocations of public land. You know, we've seen schools or people just getting public land like that. So it's targeting to prevent that. Then we have some versions which include tweaks to define registration procedures and harmonization with Land Registration Act, okay? And the law is actually intending to enhance transparency because Kenya Gazette is something everyone can reach and get an opportunity to scrutinize. Then it will also reduce fraud or misuse of public land. We've seen situations where public land has been sold and all that happens. It is also focusing to harmonize land laws and registration process so that they align in modern practices and oversight. However, this law has also concerns and risks. Listen to this. The first risk of this land bill is that there is a burden of gazette notices, so it may slow down legitimately needed land transactions. If you want to buy land or something, you may take time before they tell you it is okay. So bureaucracy will rise. You know, when bureaucracy rises in Kenya, chances of corruption rise also. The other problem with this law is that if the notice period or the process is weak, okay, it might not afford the real opportunities for public contestation. You may not contest in relation to a given post or land aspect. Again, some people fear that the oversight is generally weak and corruption is rife. Canadian opportunities, welcome. Yeah, are you the same as Canadian Prospect? I can see that picture is almost same. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much. All right. Let's look at the law number 3 that the President William Ruto signed. The third law is Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill 2023. Thank you so much. Welcome. Yeah, so Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill, what does it do? The key changes that we have seen in the signing that happened recently is that there is declaration of national parks now. The bill has revised how unalienated public land and land acquired by government may be declared as national parks. So the amendment now requires that after the Cabinet Secretary's notice, the declaration must be approved by both parliaments, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, before gazetting. Then we have benefit sharing incentives. You know that the modification of Section 72 requires that the Cabinet Secretary, after advice and consultation, consulting revenue allocation, county governments and all that, they should issue guidelines on benefit sharing on parks. All right? All right, guys, let's proceed. You know, when I receive calls, I don't disregard, because when I disregard, you may not know. It may be a business deal, and when you disregard, you lose it. So sometimes, even if I'm on a live stream, I just receive, then I pause and continue. So the next law, this law on actually parks, the other aspect about that law is that there is a continuation of existing agreements. So it adds up provision that agreements regarding management or administration of national parks that have been entered remain in force until revoked per their terms, okay? There is also expansion of wildlife species of compensation. Can you imagine? We've not been considering compensation of other wildlife species. So they have been added. Now the bill amends third schedule, and it is including species like sharks, whales, stingrays, and stonefish, among other eligible wildlife for compensation in cases of injury, death caused by these species. So in case a whale injures you, a shark, stingray, or other fish species, stonefish or others, then you deserve to be compensated. That's an unfortunate thing. I wouldn't wish it happens to anybody. Now, what are the positives of this law? The fact that it is allowing the host counties to actually share the economic benefits. I think that when I give a tick. I lived around Tsavo Park for a long time, and people used to be actually injured. But during the normal time, the community does not gain much. Then now, it is also making a declaration for national parks to be more democratic and accountable, okay? Instead of, they go through parliamentary oversight instead of pure executive decision. So parliamentary oversight sometimes is more democratic than executive. They are also going to ensure that communities affected by wildlife are compensated. We've seen a lot of people at Masai Mara complaining, and when affected by this, even Ngong Forest, all right? Then they also want to ensure that there is stability of existing management agreements so that we don't have abrupt decisions being made whenever there is a problem. But there are also risks. Listen to the risks of this law. This law has risks. The process of joint management and benefit sharing may actually lead to a lot of conflicts with national government and counties, because where money is, guys, problems arise. So because there is a vague and poor enforcement process here. Again, even though there is benefit sharing with community, I don't think that the community on the ground itself will gain, because unless there is a strong mandate, there may be a problem. Some people may just swallow that compensation or benefit out there. Another risk is that there might be tension on control, like who is to make the key decisions, who is to control the land use, who is supposed to get the revenue. Remember, the county is just not a blanket, okay? Is it the MC? Is it the ward under the MC? Is it the constituency under the governor? Or who is supposed to take care? The requirement of parliamentary approvals also becomes a burden or a political step, and it might be very slow, quite slow. We know what happened in the country. The next law, on law number 4, I don't know whether I'll reach 8, let me try. Law number 8 is Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Amendment Bill 2024. That is one of the bills that was signed by the president. What are the key changes in this bill? The bill amends the existing Computer Misuse and Cyber Crime. Yeah, it's amending Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act Cap 79C. What is it introducing? It is introducing new and clearer definitions of terms such as asset, identity theft, SIM card, virtual account, to better capture modern forms of cybercrime. It is also strengthening cybercrime provisions and gives additional powers to the state agencies to act more proactively rather than only after the fact. One especially contagious change in the authority granted to courts and investigators to block and order Shutdowns of websites, online platforms suspected to be facilitating illegal or harmful behavior. Harmful or illegal behavior. All right? So if your platform is suspected to be facilitating illegal or harmful behavior, it can be flagged down now based on that law. Also, it adds a clause known as Section 46A. And this clause is giving enforcement authority power to order the deletion of content from digital devices, websites, systems, preemptively if believed to facilitate criminal activity. I hope you got it. Now, the bill also broadens powers of the National Computer and Cyber Crimes Coordination Committee, NC4, to, in effect, monitor, coordinate, and act against platforms that promote illegal content such as terrorism and child abuse. So if your platform is actually encouraging child abuse or terrorism, it may be actually flagged down. Now, what are the positive aspects of this law? The positive aspects are that it will modernize the legal framework to keep up with evolving cyber threats such as swim swapping. We've seen a lot of swim swapping happening. We've seen identity theft and virtual accounts. It will also allow faster and more preemptive or preventive responses to cybercrime, such as shutting down rogue platforms before they do further harm. It will also enhance enforcement of credibility and protect citizens from digital harms, fraud, misinformation, and misuse. However, there is criticism and risks and concerns about this law. Number one, it is going to be against freedom of expression, and it's bringing censorship risks because the law now allows preemptive blocking and deletion of content. There is a real risk to abuse from state. If they think that whatever you are airing is not right, they'll do away with it. So maybe the state is against journalism, public criticism, or dissent. One term. They may decide to block or delete your content under the disguise of cyber security. Indeed, human rights groups like Article 19 have warned that the bill contravenes international standards of free speech, but nobody has listened. It has finally been signed into law by RUTO. Vague definitions, okay? When you look at this law, it has vague definitions of things like illegal content, facilitating criminal activity. What is criminal activity and what is to facilitate? What is illegal? What is content? So they have not defined it quite clearly. So it may be really widespread, applying to anything. Due process and oversight. If shutdowns and deletions orders are issued without adequate judicial oversight, appeals, or transparency, it will weaken checks and balances. We know that a lot of channels are doing checks and balances on so many things. We get informed about information from people like Maverick, true information, and many other political sites, but that may become history. There is also a challenge of proportionality and necessity because the preemptive powers must be carefully constrained to avoid overreach. Critics will look for how the law ensures that only the minimum necessary interference is allowed. I hope so. The next law, I'm on law number 5. Hey, I hope you'll be patient enough to finish the 8 laws. National Police Service Commission is the next law that was signed. What does it mean? The amendment likely tinkers with mandates, powers, appointment, oversight of National Police Service Commission. Now, some reporting suggests that it may shift certain control and oversight roles more towards executive or internal structured than so that they can reduce independent commission aspects. Then there is also a text on amendment, which is harder to find in public summaries The precise changes are on disciplinary powers, appointments, and oversight that will require reference to the official bill. Maybe you can check that. The intention of this law is that it wants to improve efficiency on police oversight, discipline, recruitment, promotions, and accountability. It also wants to streamline the process and reduce bureaucratic friction in the management of police service. There are also risks, concerns, and criticisms on this law. Listen to this. The danger in this law is that it's weakening independent oversight. You know the role of independent oversight. And maybe external checks would be a problem in the police structures. The other thing is that if amendment reduces transparency and public trust and accountability, a lot of people will suffer. The last risk is that without careful balances, we will have misuse of insulate that will insulate the police from scrutiny. Like when they do some things, they may not be scrutinized. The next law, number 6, we are almost coming to an end, is Air Passenger Service Charge Amendment Bill 2025. This one, the key changes are like the law is amending the Air Passenger Service Charge APSC Act Cap 475. The changes, it changes how to proceed from aviation levy. The fee paid by airline passenger are allocated among relevant agencies such as Kenya Airport Authority, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, Kenya Meteorological Service Authority, and Tourism Fund. So it is actually changing on the proceeds of that levy, aviation levy. Okay. The amendment is also merging or replacing Tourism Promotion Fund with Tourism Fund so that it becomes meteorological, so that the Meteorological Authority receives part of the fund's revenue. So they are merging that. It is positive because it is going to enhance sustainable financing of aviation oversight and meteorological services as well as airport infrastructure and tourism. It may also reduce duplication of funds. Look at the fact of actual service providers also in meteorological and aviation aspect, so that it distributes aviation-derived revenues fluently, efficiently, that is. It will also strengthen the meteorological service. I know people work in meteorological service. They are very important. They determine how the planes will be flying and all that. So at least it will give them some revenue, all right? But the problem is here. We have criticisms again on this. The law may reduce the share of some bodies like airports and tourism. What amount will they get? Because if they are sharing the same amount, it may be reduced automatically. Then, if the statutory percentages or oversight are weak, the fund might be diverted or used inefficiently. We have some stakeholders that may lose influence or control over the fund because of political tension that might emerge. I said might. The next law is Virtual Asset Service Providers Bill 2025. What are the key changes in relation to that law? The bill provides for regulation, licensing, supervision, and oversight of the virtual asset service providers, such as crypto exchanges, wallets, trading platforms, and so many others. Now, the law is defining virtual asset service provider as something else. So it is means that set out permissible activities, licensing procedures, conditions, suspension, and revocation. So the Central Bank of Kenya is designed to license issuance of stable coins and virtual assets, while the Capital Market Authority will license exchanges, brokers, and trading platforms. Have you got that, those people in virtual business? It also includes anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, and investigative enforcement powers, such as inspections, investigations, and penalties. The bill is introducing transitional provisions, confidentiality, and appeals that clients record keeping, cybersecurity, capital requirements, such things will be actually checked. Okay? What are the positive aspects of this law? It will bring clarity, legitimacy, and oversight to digital assets in Kenya, which have been operating in regulatory gray zone. We have had a gray zone actually. It will also attract investment, innovation in fintech, crypto, by giving clearer legal frameworks and investor protections. Actually, I tried crypto and I just didn't make it to follow that. It is also going to manage risks associated to digital assets such as fraud, money laundering, volatility, because it will have to impose licenses and compliance standards to those who are managing it. So that hatutasikia ati fungua sasa, umevaa short, something like that, okay? Then, it is going to integrate crypto digital finance into the border financial regulatory architecture. CBK and CMA, you know what it does best. The problem is that, again, the law is not clean. It has some risks or criticisms or concerns. One, if licensing is overly burdensome or expensive, small startups, watu kama sisi tutaumia, okay? Because starting that business may be a great problem. Again, the enforcement may be weak or lack regulators. So the law may become symbolic without real effect. So we see that the same problems might continue. There is also a risk in regulatory overreach because cross-border innovation and the barriers to entries, how will they block them? The law must also strike balance between flexibility, that is to accommodate novel crypto models, and strictness, that is to control the abuse. So there is a lot of effort to be done there. The last problem with this law, some analysts caution that broad use of stable coins convertible to US dollars may impact the local currency and financial stability if not carefully regulated. Can you imagine somebody making $3,000 in Kenya a day? The way we hear from the people doing trading. Anyway, the last rule, nimewachosha sana, but just be happy that I'm trying to make clear these bills. The last bill is Privatization Bill 2025. What does it do, or what are the key changes? The Privatization Bill 2025 grants the government greater latitude to sell or dispose state-owned enterprises without necessarily having to conduct a fresh parliamentary approval on each sale. Hey, hapo ndio tumefika. Okay? The bill is also intended to streamline and accelerate privatization of public corporations and assets, making it easier to implement government divestments. Like if it doesn't want any company like West Sugar Company or KPLC or maybe Kasarani State Grounds or Kenya Ports Authority to continue being run by the government, they'll quickly sell it. Okay? The next one, it may provide mechanism for oversight, valuation, procedure, and possibly protection against undervaluation and nepotistic sales. We've been hearing people complaining, ameuzia rafiki, ameuzia son-in-law, ameuzia siji nani. So they are saying it is actually going to provide medicine or remedy against that. Now, what is the positive of this law? It is going to improve efficiency and reduce physical burden of underperforming SOSs. You know, recently I heard that KPLC was actually underperforming. And therefore, if it's underperforming, we want to throw it away. But what if we are just making a mistake? For companies today, it can be up, tomorrow low. Anyway, it is what it is. I heard about what Ndindi Nyoro said. That's why I'm speaking about this. The next positive aspect about the law is that it can attract private sector investment and inject capital and improve service delivery in sectors that are formerly run by the state. Like Webuye Sugar Company fell down. If they allow this law to operate, maybe it will wake up. We don't know. Mumia's Sugar Company also, and all those, okay? Again, it's meant to simplify and expedite the process so that bureaucratic delays do not stall privatization. Of course, in Kenya, where there is a process of parliamentary process, sometimes there is bureaucracy. People feeling big and want to be paid for them to approve something. But also, I think the process allows things not to be just done without consultation. Anyway, it is what it is. So let's look at the risks, criticisms, and concerns. The first concern is that when they reduce parliamentary oversight, it raises the danger of non-transparent or politically motivated asset sales. You know, like I've seen, if you have read a book known as A Silent Song, the last story, which is called Checkmate. Checkmate, Randall ahead to undervalue methylated methanol plant because he did not care whether it will bring something to the nation or not. So there is high possibility that if we have this law, some people in the government will decide to undervalue some company and give it away. And maybe they are giving away to themselves. Who knows? These things happen. The next problem is that without strong safeguards, there is a risk of corruption inside deals, favorism in privatization. I may want to acquire a company, I'll not be given away, but somebody else will be given. Okay? Yeah. Some of the SOSs will provide essential public services, but maybe because the government doesn't feel like they should continue managing it, they sell it off. You remember Rivertex? Rivertex used to be a very good company when I was a small girl. Hey, I almost saying boy, I was like, hey, why when I was a little girl, I used to hear things from my parents because my parents taught in Tambach, Anin, and all that. They were talking about something to do with Rivertex, and it used to actually provide cotton clothes and all that. Now, currently, it went down. So what if a government just doesn't feel an interest of a certain company because of the region where it is? You remember even the coffee, is it coffee or tea companies? So I hope that this will be controlled. The last problem is that the public pushback. When people believe national assets are being sold off too cheaply to cronies, there will be a lot of backlash. You've seen what backlash has done in Madagascar, in Liberia or Libya, even Sudan and many other countries. We don't want our country to go into that. So overall, there are a lot of risks from the above laws. You've seen the aspect of centralization versus oversight, modernization and catch-ups, balancing of flexibility and safeguards, balancing transparency and public participation, risk of abuse, institutional capacity, and many others. So guys, I'm just hoping for the best out of these 8 laws. I've taken my time to actually talk about them, and I hope you have understood something from it. I was not able to check on who is watching because once someone calls my phone, quickly the camera declines now the aspect of viewing who is watching. But guys, I really appreciate today you've watched big time. Please subscribe to the channel. Share my videos, recommend to other people, share them, and continue supporting us even in dropping comments, and God will bless you. Because we are here not to create malice. We are not here to create fear. We are not here to create a world where you are just criticizing blindly. We do research. I do research before I come to this platform to do anything. And I also listen to other people and come here to talk about it. So please subscribe to the channel, continue supporting me big time, and God will bless you so that at least when I am no longer, something will be said that there was someone here who did this. Okay? So thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.